Welcome to Sara Gonzales Unfiltered. Happy Monday. And I say happy Monday because it is the last day of June. And I'm going to be really happy when this entire month is over, because what that means is that my organization, Texas Family Project, can get a little breather. We can get a little rest from having to infiltrate all of the disgusting pride festivals happening across the state, one of which happened over the weekend. This was Pride Houston 365. This is the organization behind Houston. Apparently has all of these Pride Month events. It's not just the festival and the parade. It's like all month long, they make up reasons to just put degeneracy in front of children. Now, this one in particular is actually the third largest in the United States, this organization. And the thing is they say that on their website that Pride is not just for June anymore. Yes, they say that Pride is actually to take place all year long. So sorry for your eyeballs. Sorry for my eyeballs as well. Pride Houston is here to stay 365 days a year. Oh, there's not enough bleach in the world for my eyes. I'd like to welcome to the show, of course, the president of Texas Family Project, Brady Gray, along with the executive director of Texas Family Project, Kaden Lopez. These are my colleagues. These are my coworkers. We work together to protect children, innocent children in the state of Texas from indoctrination. And Kaden here had the displeasure of going to the Houston event. How are you recovering from that? Before we play the footage, how are you recovering from that, Kaden?
You know, it's an interesting thing, right? So there's the three of us in this organization, and we have to cover a ton of events over the state of Texas. And unfortunately, I drew the wrong stick and had to end up at Houston Pride. So recovering, not well, but getting through it.
Yeah, I really think it was the worst one of all of them that we've gone to this month.
It was bad. It was a really bad one.
Yeah. So let's go ahead. Now, listen. I don't have to tell you guys, but I'm going to tell you anyway that there is viewer discretion that is advised. I do not advise that you have young children or old children, honestly, to watch any of this footage that Kaden got here. But let's go ahead and play some of what he got from this all ages, family friendly Pride Festival in Houston. Now, our editors felt the need to censor this. I guess you're welcome, but that was like full butt crack with a thong going up the rear. That's, of course, there was no underwear, Kaden can confirm.
Can confirm.
And then there's children. There's another guy in a cloth. Strollers, those of you listening on podcasts, lots of kids. This drag queen didn't find it appropriate to just, I don't know, wear something a little looser in the lower regions. Wonder why. This is, wow, that's a lot of kids. Yeah. Naturally, at an all-ages festival, you would have women twerking and kissing each other while singing head down, ass up. That's the way I like to F. That's naturally what you would find. And there is, of course, the family fun zone. You can't forget the family fun zone with all of the bubbles for the kids. Now, how far away was that from the free rapid HIV test, Kaden?
You know, it was kind of far away from the HIV test, but it was right next to the stage. It was the next area over. It was kid zone, little pathway, and then stage. So,
and then HIV.
Some adult perverts in the kid zone.
Correct.
Along with the kids. So
correct.
They're standing there in the bubbles.
Because, I mean, that's going to attract the weirdos.
Yeah, of course.
The bubbles. Yeah. Who knows what else? I mean, this is really, really gross. And I think one of the grossest things about it are all of the corporate sponsors that were included in this. I mean, here's just from their their flyer, ABC 13, which is the local ABC channel, which, by the way, I did look. I was Googling, and they had posted all about the family-friendly parade and festival that was going to take place this weekend. Shell, Hewlett-Packard, Walgreens, the Houston Rockets, Target, JP Morgan Chase, Kroger, Absolute, Hilton. And, I got to believe with the Houston Rockets that Hakeem Olajuwon is just, he wouldn't stand for that while he was on the Houston Rockets. I'm just saying.
It's true. It's true.
I mean, I guess how is this still happening in Texas?
Well, it's not just still happening, but it's growing. Like you said, Pride 365, right? This all started with, we just want to get married. These Pride festivals started in the 70s with a few hundred people that'd go have a march and nobody paid any attention to it. Still not enough people are paying attention to it, but we're a far cry from a few hundred people in a march when we've got what we just watched happening in our cities. And they want to see this grow. They want to see it expand, and they're hell bent on doing it.
Yeah, they really are. And I mean, I have to believe now, I haven't studied up on what the pride parades or the protests or whatever once were, but I have to believe it didn't involve naked adults in front of children. That part came later.
Yeah, I think that part came later. I mean, like I say, it was all about, we just want to get married, right? That's all they wanted.
Right.
They just wanted to be married. Like,
yeah.
Leave us alone. Let us live our lives.
Yeah.
Now it's not enough to leave us alone. We want your children.
We want your children.
We want your children. We want to take over your communities. You will comply. You cannot criticize us. You cannot say anything that we're doing here is wrong. We're protected by the First Amendment. Can you imagine that? Imagine our founding fathers being like, "Oh yeah, this is what we're trying to protect." That dude in the Borat thong bikini banana suit. Like this is what the framers were talking about when they were writing the First Amendment out.
Right, which of course is supposed to be, it's protecting you from criticizing the government, right? And society has stretched that to mean I can do or say whatever I want in front of children. I can perform basically, sexual innuendos, half naked, almost fully naked, and there's nothing you can do about it because I have a, quote, First Amendment right. I mean, that's why one of the bill that we, of course, advocated for at Texas Family Project to protect children from not just that, but, of course, it stemmed from the drag shows for kids. That's their whole argument. That's the ACLU's argument. That's these drag queens' argument, is that they have a First Amendment right of freedom of expression. I'm sorry, you don't have a right to sexually indoctrinate children.
100%. It's insane that they would even take it that way. And like Brady was saying, you see the evolution. I was at Houston Pride a couple years ago. Not for the Pride event, don't worry. But it was the same.
You sure? Do you have something to tell us?
I'm sure.
Okay.
It was the same weekend that Roe v. Wade was overturned. So it was extra crazy. We got spit on, water bottles thrown at us. It was insane. But it wasn't sexual like this. Like, it just continues to get more and more sexual because for some reason they feel the need to express themselves even more. It's like they think they're the resistance in this, that they think they're like being discriminated against, or that we're like trying to shut down homosexuality, which, wouldn't be the worst thing for society. But they take this position of being discriminated against, so they go above and beyond every single time, and it just continues to get worse.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that the opposite is true, right? I mean, if you had a heterosexual party in which you had children there and there were heterosexual men or women that were dressed like that were dancing like that in front of children, you have to believe that society would be aghast and everyone could come out and say, this is absolutely disgusting and this can't happen. And somehow this community has earned a pass in seemingly everything that they do. You can dance sexually like that explicitly in front of children. You can play the lyrics that talk about having sex. You're welcome, editors. Okay, I used the soft version. All right. You can talk about all sorts of things. You can secretly transition children in schools, and somehow you get a pass for all of that, even though that would never fly if a heterosexual person did it.
Never. And we flip this whole thing on its head, right? We live in an era where we're all about redefining everything, right? We redefine words, redefine what everything means. And we're doing that right now. We redefine now what a bigot is. Now, you're a bigot if you say homosexuality is wrong or that what they're doing here is wrong. And forget about all of the craziness that, oh no, you can't say that's wrong. That's bigoted. But it's not bigoted for them to hold completely unreasonable beliefs and just say, well, no, we think you're all wrong.
Right.
We've just flipped everything on its head. It's all insane. What's good is evil. What's evil is good. And now, how do you put the genie back in the bottle? We just continue to get worse and worse and worse as we go.
And we have a lot of work in Texas, even in Texas, to do. A lot of people think, well, this is a red state, so you guys are fine. There's actually a lot of work to be done.
A ton. I mean, we are the hotbed for this kind of stuff. And I mean, you can see the insanity that happens in other states, but when you tell people about this stuff happening, a lot of people don't believe us when we talk about it. And we tell them that, hey, no, this is the kind of stuff that happens. And it doesn't just happen in Dallas and Houston and Austin. It also happens in places like Tyler. It also happens in West Texas. It happens in all these little towns too. And they say, no, that stuff isn't going on here. Yes, it is. It's happening in your community too. No matter where you live, it's happening in your community too.
Yeah. And sometimes, I mean, the rural areas are the ones that are the most creepy. I mean, Brady mentioned Tyler. I was out there. My parents lived 25 minutes from Tyler, and I was out there, and I had no idea that there was a huge witch community, apparently. In Tyler, Texas, what one would consider a rural, out in the country. They live near the lake. It's, to me, very representative, like, this is Texas country. And I was like, oh, there's octopuses in jars.
Yeah.
That's weird.
I don't understand how it happened because, yeah, you're right. You drive into Tyler, Texas, and you're like, I'm in the Bible Belt.
Yeah.
That's what this is.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, wait, there's Satanists here. There's
Right.
witches here. This is like some sort of weird, dark little hub in the middle of just beautiful, piney woods of East Texas. It's bizarre. And
Yeah.
I don't understand how those communities have allowed that to progress and allowed that to kind of fester and grow there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I wonder if it feels very intentional. Like, these people are moving to these small areas intentionally just to say, we can change. We can do anywhere, right? We don't need to go to the blue areas and do it. And we don't need to go do it in the city of Dallas, where we already know that we're really going to test the boundaries. We're going to show you that we can set up shop anywhere and be successful.
100%. I mean, they have almost proven to be more effective than we are in the fact that they attack these areas that would be very against it. But a big problem that we have is that we have a lot of people that aren't willing to actually put their foot down on issues. They'll talk about it, but they won't actually do anything. It's partly the church. The church has stood aside as a lot of this stuff is happening. Like, quite frankly, we were talking about Tyler. A couple of years ago, I was in Tyler, Texas, and the Satanic Temple was having an unbaptism. They were unbaptizing children and the whole 9 yards. And was there a single church or preacher there? No, nowhere to be found. So there is something to be said about the way they're attacking and how we, as Texans and as, people who are part of the church, and like, we need to be here in order to counter these things, or else they're going to keep taking ground.
Yeah. It's that same thing we were just talking about, redefining terms and conflating things, turning things on its head. I struggle, kind of go back and forth. I don't know that it's so much a dichotomy. It's just this contrast within myself of being really angry when I see this stuff happening in my state, and really frustrated that more is not being done and that we're not putting a stop to it, but also being really sad for these people. Really sad that these people believe this is what empowerment looks like. This is what adds value to their lives. These men dressing up like women, becoming mockeries, not just of themselves, but of women on a stage. And they think that this is empowering. And then they're teaching that to children. And it's sad. And to Kaden's point, it's incredibly sad that so many churches have taken the position that no, what's compassionate is to be nice to these people. What's compassionate is to tell them that we love you anyways. Hate the sin, not the sinner. This whole adage. No. You can hate the sin, but you can also be compassionate in telling those people that they're wrong. Yeah. You can be compassionate in saying you can't do this in front of kids. Yeah. And it's not compassionate to allow them to continue on a path of destruction, to take our children down a path of destruction, and then sit by idly and say, well, but we just don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. We just want to be nice. And that's where we've gotten with the church, at least. That's where we see it a lot.
And there are so many church sponsors at all of these events. I'm sure you saw them in Houston. There were a ton. I was in Fort Worth this weekend, and there were a ton of churches with the air quotes. Got to use the air quotes for that at all of these events, and it really is alarming to see. Before we go, I want to tell you guys, I'm a glass half full kind of girl, okay? And I would just like to point out, it could have been worse, Kaden, because you could have been in San Francisco with our friend Bo Diddle, who had the displeasure of being in San Francisco. And here are some of the pictures of the all ages, child-friendly drag show Pride Festival that he was at. So it's just dudes walking around with their penises out. And that, my friends, I'm not even sure what that is.
This is our future.
Yeah.
That's what this is.
That's a great point.
If we don't change something, this is our future.
That's a great point. That's actually really depressing.
It's Bo, the guy who shot this, great friend of mine. He was a groomsman in my wedding. Unfortunately, with that, viewers, you guys are lucky. I got the unedited version into my messages over the weekend. So you guys are lucky that you're at least getting
You have bad friends.
I know. It's really.
I don't think he likes you very much, Kaden.
I know.
think
He's
he
like, hey,
hates you.
Look at this footage. Whoa.
So, is Steven just this one more in the pup mask, just for good measure. So that's what children are seeing in San Francisco. It's happening all over the place. Apparently, indecent exposure isn't a thing anymore that you can get arrested for, at least not in San Francisco and any blue city or state across the country. So we are working really hard to stop this crap in Texas over at Texas Family Project. We would appreciate the help from you guys. Go to texasfamilyproject.com. Please make a donation. All of your donations will be used to stop crap like this from happening in the state. We need to set a precedent. If we can't do it in Texas, how do you expect to do it anywhere else? So you can go to texasfamilyproject.com. Please donate. And you know what? Just get involved. Sign up for our newsletter. And we're sending out really great information it's not just Texas that needs to know. I mean, everyone needs to know what's going on here, because so go Texas, so goes the country.
Absolutely.
So I appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
I'm glad to see you. We all live and work in DFW, but DFW is very far, and I don't get to see them in person that frequently. So I am glad that you guys are here. Thanks for making the trek over here.
Yeah, thanks for the invite.
Yeah. All right. Kaden Lopez and Brady Gray of Texas Family Project, my coworkers. I appreciate you guys. All right. Let's go ahead and take a quick break, and then we will be back with more. Steven, my computer's not working. What's my sponsor? Relief Factor. We love Relief Factor over here at The Blaze. There are so many of us who have had great success, like Borat. Great success with Relief Factor. I had the banana hammock thing in my head, and Borat just popped up. And so Relief Factor is there for those of you who you live in constant pain. You think that this is your life, and you're like, this sucks. I walk around in pain. I'm not as patient with my spouse and my children because I just have this nagging pain all the time. Don't live your life like that. Try Relief Factor. It's an all-natural anti-inflammatory. And so those of you who, a lot of men, you're like, oh, it's all natural, must not work. Joke's on you, because it actually does. 70% of the people who order their 3-week quick start go on to keep ordering more. That's how many people it's working for. It's worked for me. It's worked for so many people in this building. The odds are in your favor. It's going to work for you as well. So if you're in pain, go get it. They've got a guarantee, so you've literally got nothing to lose except your pain. ReliefFactor.com. Go get that 3-week quick start over at ReliefFactor.com. All right, welcome to the show. We're going to go to Jaco Booyens first, because the other one can't get off of his phone. Jaco Booyens, please.
What do you do with these Gen Zers? Stuck. I don't know. I don't think he's a Gen Zer. I think he's a millennial.
I think he is Gen Z. I don't know. We'll ask him.
How
John
old are
Doyle.
you right this minute?
You're asking me how I identify?
No, I don't care how you identify, but how old are you?
25. I'm Gen Z.
Gen Z.
But I'm a first wave Zoomer. The post 9/11 Zoomers, I don't relate to at all. They're always on their phones, the TikTok, the Fortnite dances. I don't do that. I was on my phone because my mom was trying to call me. I haven't spoken to her in ages. And I said, Mom, you're going to have to take passenger seat to the real most important woman of my life. Sara Gonzales of the Sara Gonzales Unfiltered program.
I'm so glad you were
that
texting
was a
your
good-
mom.
that
So I
was a really
gladly
good-
stepped in out of order and
a good
said,
story.
yes, it's so good to be on the show. Thank you, Sarah. Good to see you. Johnny boy.
I know it's been a while. I feel like you were
I'm
ghosting me
always
for a while.
banned from the show.
Oh my gosh, you're so
we're
full of
treated
crap.
so unfairly by the Sara Gonzales.
He's so full of crap. We ask every week if he
To
can
his
come on.
eyeballs.
I know, and he's like, "No, I'm too busy not making content."
It's true. It's heavy lies the crown, you know.
So I'm glad you guys are here with me. Did y'all see our Houston Pride video, by the way?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, it's terrible. It's disgusting. So over the weekend at Glastonbury, this is the UK's biggest music festival. I've never heard of these people. It's a British rock punk duo by the stage name Bob Vylan. And in this festival, they started some anti-Israel chants that play stupid games, win stupid prizes, I guess. Here is some of that.
Free, 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 free. Alright, but have you heard this one though? Death, death to the IDF, death, death to the IDF, death, death to the IDF. Death, death to
That's
the IDF.
a lot of people chanting about death.
Death to the IDF. Hell yeah, from the river to the sea, Palestine must be, will be, inshallah.
So, like I said, I'd never heard of this band until like literally 5 minutes ago. But it's apparently like Rage Against the Machine, but they're way worse at music. And let's play one more. It's Heard You Want Your Country Back, Shut the F Up. This is in England, to a crowd waving Palestinian flags.
Your country back. Shut the up. How do you want your country back? Well, shit, me too. How do you want your country back? How do you want your country back? Shut the
At the moment you drop him on his head.
Well, the sad thing is, Jaco, all of those people seem to be in agreement with
No,
him.
that's hello anti-Semitism, hello hatred of Israel, hatred of Jews, and this is where I'm going to say very careful here in America. The pundits in the GOP on the right, supposed friends of ours that find themselves on the wrong side of this conversation frequently. And so I just want to say, if you want to fall off the cliff in that direction, that's who you're partnering with. Remember when Biden was in office and we say, hey, no vote is a vote for Biden, or this, you pick your poison. This is the same thing here. You very quickly, when you're anti-Israel, find yourself amongst the scum. So careful.
I mean, here's the thing. It wasn't just death to the IDF, which, I mean, that's a violent, like, death to the IDF. It speaks for itself. But it was also from the river to the sea, which, we know what that means. They don't think that Israel should have the right to even exist. Heard you want your country back, shut the F up. That also should be self-explanatory. There are a lot of people in the UK who are not happy with the fact that all of these Muslim communities have moved in and taken over and in certain cases changed these communities permanently. And so obviously that's happening over there, and we can have that conversation too. But what has happened since this took place over the weekend, this group had their top 3 Hollywood talent agency, UTA, that dropped them. They were canceled from an American tour that they were part of that was scheduled to begin in Washington in October because the State Department revoked their visas.
Good.
Which was like, and that's the conversation I want to have is, was that justified? I think yes, because this is what they said. They said the State Department has revoked the U.S. visas for members of the Bob Vylan band in light of their hateful tirade at Glastonbury, including leading the crowd in death chants. And here's the catch. Foreigners who glorify violence and hatred are not welcome visitors to our country. So to me, it sums it up there in that last sentence. Did they say anything about America? No. But that type of hatred and violence we don't have to let just anybody in. This is the United States of America. We should be very selective when we decide who to let into our country, even if for a brief amount of time.
Yeah, and the thing too to remember with these people is they're not discerning between Israel and America and Europe.
Yeah.
All they see, because they are like an entropic force of anti-civilization.
Yep.
These people have never cultivated anything that would be recognized by us as civilization. And so when they look at like the Western world, which I don't know if I would include Israel in that necessarily. I think they're certainly closer to that than their neighbors, obviously. But they view all of that to basically be an insult to themselves because we have colonized them and we have ruled over them. And ironically, they're still demanding to be governed by us and live under our standards of living when they come to our country and try to like recolonize us, I think is the phrase. And so, yeah, you know, if I'm working in Washington and I want to keep these people out of the country anyway, and there are a lot of Jewish people in politics who obviously want to keep these people out of the country, I might be like, hey, shouldn't we do it because of anti-Semitism? That sounds like a great idea. And then they'll agree with me. And then we get Stephen Miller to, you know, deport all of these people. And so yeah, I'm totally fine with that because I really believe that decolonization was the defining issue of the 20th century because that is what is caused for all of this migration into Europe and into America from these countries, which are just completely incompatible with our ways of life. And unfortunately, you know, like I like to quote from President Trump's book, Time to Get Tough. We're going to have to get tough. It is time for that. And we're going to have to say no to these people. You're not welcome, because it's not even like they're keeping to themselves, quietly assimilating. They are hostile to us. Look at the ones who they elect into Congress. Right. And I don't even know why we allow people like that to be in Congress in the first place, but they clearly have no intention of assimilation. They are most excited, not when talking about Thomas Paine and John Locke, but when talking about this idea of getting back at us for what?
Mm-hmm.
I miss this guy.
I know.
I just love your mind. I mean, think about it. We're gonna yell basically death to Jews, right?
Yeah.
Death to the IDF, which, for those of you who don't know, every single boy and girl, has to serve in the IDF.
That's a great point. So no one can say like, oh, he just meant law enforcement.
No,
like,
come on.
Required.
When you say death to the IDF, you're not talking about the military. Once IDF, always IDF.
Right.
You can always be called, they call reservists back in the war now that was 60-something, 70 years old.
Yeah.
I don't care if you're hitting a typewriter or whatever you're doing, but you're serving. So it's death to Israel, death to the IDF. No, they all serve. Gal Gadot, Hollywood actress, served. You serve. So it's all of a sudden they're going to land in the U.S. to come take our taxpayer money for ticket and all of a sudden love the American Jews?
Right.
Heck no, you're not coming here.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're not coming here.
And I know, you know, there are people on the other side who would say, well, everyone, if they, you know, you shouldn't take something that should be protected under the First Amendment and
They don't have First Amendment rights.
Exactly.
Are they Americans?
Exactly. And it's like, no, you must be mistaken.
You need a visa. You don't have a constitution.
Exactly right. Exactly. And it really has been really refreshing to see this administration get tough on how, you know, they're shutting down all of these visas until they can figure out how to properly vet these people on social media. I mean, this is people overseas, all of these foreigners think that it's just some sort of a right that they should have to be able to come over here whenever they want. And it's like, no, this is the greatest country in the world. And we have to protect that. And the way that we protect that is being very, very choosy about who we welcome into our country. It's just that simple. And if you are going to perpetrate hatred and glorify violence, you're not welcome here. I mean, it's crazy to me that that's even a thing. Like, yes, we should be very, very selective on who we allow into
the problem
this country.
is we're too nice as people. And what I mean by that is if you try to explain, like I try to get my mom to understand this stuff and I'm like, Mom, you need to understand that they don't even have words in their like, I guess their first language for something like a right. They don't have like a common law tradition. So when they say I have a right to this, they don't mean that in the sense of like, they literally just think that's another word for I want this.
Entitlement.
And she laughs and she's like, oh, that's funny. I'm like, no, it's not a joke. Like I'm not saying like, hey, wouldn't it be funny if no, this is how they think. These are not people who are descended. Their culture is not, you know, they don't have a common law tradition where there are things like rights and duties and responsibilities. They use the word want or right because that's what they hear on TV as a stand-in for I am entitled to this simply because why shouldn't I be? I mean, it's like when there was I think they were doing like interviews with people in New York about this like mayor race, and they were talking about, we want free this, free that. They are not having an internal conversation with themselves about the logistics behind, a government-run organization versus the private sector. In their minds, they see the world around them, and none of it makes sense to them. They don't understand how public transit works. They don't understand how money is distributed, because in their countries they don't have that, because for whatever reason. And so they just sort of think that all of these things kind of work themselves out through this like omnipotent force in the sky. And so why not have that omnipotent force in the sky also give them the right to XYZ? These people are, frankly and tragically, not that mentally sophisticated. And as a result of that, they become hostile to people who will not just give them free stuff. It does not occur to them that it doesn't work like that. If you're refusing that to them, then they become hostile to you and they want to kill you.
Well, because they think they're owed it. I want to say one thing in our country. You just nailed something. Scripture, and I'm always going to go back to the Word of God. Niceness, being nice, is not a fruit of the Spirit. Yeah. Kindness is. We are to be kind, but kindness corrects. Mm-hmm. Kindness sets boundaries.
We literally just had this conversation about the
that's
LGBT
biblical.
Community. Yes.
God does not call you to be nice. Yes. When you're nice, you're getting a 12-year-old's breast cut off.
Right.
Because you're nice.
Right.
Yep. You don't want to offend somebody.
You don't want to offend them.
No, you know what's kind? It's when you go to a brother that steps out of the line and say, bro, you're out of line. That's kind. Kindness is not just let it happen, que sera, sera. It's setting boundaries. And it's about time we're kind and set boundaries around the country. Yep. Because we have enough little Tasmanian devil terrorists in this country who are Americans that causing terror. We don't need to import
the
lunatics from the outside.
And that's exactly, I know we got to go to break here, but that's exactly the point. Is there are a lot of people who would say, well, there are a lot of, when you say, well, we don't want to bring in murderers and rapists and, third world crazy people who don't understand and don't want to assimilate. And they're like, well, there are murderers who are United States citizens, too. It's like, right. And we can't do anything.
Our murderers.
Yeah, we can't do anything.
We don't need yours.
We can't deport them, but we certainly don't need to bring more in. Right. I don't understand what that point is they keep trying to make. All right, let's go ahead and take a quick break. We'll be back with more. First, we want to thank our sponsor, the segment Preborn. I can't thank you guys enough for, I know I told you guys before, but if those of you maybe missed it, the month of May, we did a goal of 600 ultrasounds with Preborn. And of course, what Preborn is doing is they are showing scared mothers who have unplanned pregnancies the truth, and that is an ultrasound, because they're being told by entities like Planned Parenthood, it's just a clump of cells, don't worry, you can just, suck that thing right out and you won't have any regrets. And it turns out that that's not true, especially when you consider that it's like 11% of women who take the abortion pill suffer serious health complications. Planned Parenthood would tell these women, it's fine, it's totally safe, don't worry about it, go take it at home by yourself. Preborn is actually showing these women there are dangers to that. And by the way, this is an actual baby inside you. They're looking at it on ultrasound. They're listening to the heartbeat. And in that moment, they are twice as likely to choose life. Now, we blew that ultrasound goal out of the water. I'm going to ask you guys, those of you who didn't participate, ultrasounds are $28. $28 is the cost of the difference between life and death for a baby. So how many babies' lives can you save? I would ask you to donate securely, whatever you can. Maybe it's 1 ultrasound, maybe it's 5 ultrasounds, but whatever that is, you can go to preborn.com/Sarah. That is preborn.com/Sarah. John Doyle wants to make
another point.
Belated point.
Yeah, I forgot to make this during the last segment because I myself am not particularly intelligent. But on the topic of the use of language, what I was trying to articulate, but I couldn't because, again, I don't know what I'm saying either, was that a lot of these languages, and if you ask somebody who are from certain parts of the third world how they would say something in their language, they struggle to articulate it in a way that's a clean translation between English and between their language, because we have words in English which represent, frankly, a more sophisticated culture. We can articulate very, very precise things which other languages struggle to articulate because, again, in more primitive parts of the world, they never would have had to adventure into these more particular concepts. And so that's why, when they use words like right or whatever, and we hear that and we're like, what do you mean you have a right to that? You obviously don't have a right to that. They literally do not know that because they are just repeating what they've been told from the people on television, but it would never occur to them to seriously question that, which is why it's honestly easier at this point to just follow Patriot Stephen Miller, fire from the hip, and just get them all out. We tried for like 80 years to explain it. It's not working. They're really mad at us. We just got to get them out.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And
Eddie's point.
yeah, no, I like that.
Okay.
I like that. Even the ones in Congress who show disdain and hatred towards this country.
Especially those ones.
Especially if you show hatred and disdain
Like with the
towards
nameplate
country,
Omar.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Yes. Talib.
Talib.
Yeah.
Cortes.
Unfortunately,
It's sad
we might
what's
be
happened
stuck-
to her.
We might be stuck with her. All right, let's. I want to switch. Let's switch gears here. And I saw this. The story kind of flew under the radar. On Friday, President Trump announced that he was going to suspend trade talks with Canada because of Canada's digital service tax that was scheduled. Keyword scheduled to go into effect today. And if those of you missed it, here was some of that announcement. Watch.
So Canada put a charge on some of our companies, and Canada's been a very difficult country to deal with over the years. And we have all the cards. We have every single one. We don't want to do anything bad, but they have, economically, we have such power over Canada. I'd rather not use it, but they did something with our tech companies today trying to copy Europe. You know, they copied Europe. It's not going to work out well for Europe either, and it's not going to work out well for Canada. They were foolish to do it. You know, we do a lot of business with Canada, but relatively little. They do most of their businesses with us. And when you have that circumstance, you treat people better. They've had farmers that are getting like 300, 400, 200% in tariffs. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. We have cases, you don't read this and the people don't report, but they charge us 400% on some dairy products, 400%. Nobody writes that. It's not fair to our farmers, and we've got to protect our farmers.
Now, Canada is the second largest United States trading partner after Mexico, also the largest buyer of United States exports, which is kind of to President Trump's point. Like they stand a lot to lose here. We're not budging. We're not going to talk to you guys anymore. It's going to go into effect. This tax plan would have put a 3% tax on companies like Amazon, Google, Meta, Uber, Airbnb, and it also would be retroactive, going all the way back to January of 2022. So for some of these companies, that's quite a bit of money. You're talking like some of them a $2 billion bill at the end of the month. Well, as of this morning, Canada caved and decided to drop the digital tax plan. And they're punting, trying to give themselves more time to reach a deal with President Trump by July 21st. It's the art of the deal, man.
Maybe a smart move on their point.
It's the art of the deal.
Walk that idea back just a little bit. There's
a lot of panicans here.
It's like when you tell the rookie, just chill, just calm down for a second. Yeah, you're a little over your skis.
Listen, we did it the normal way in Washington, D.C. for decades. And all that did was create more and more and more of a trade imbalance. Maybe just let someone new come in and try something different that's never been done before. Calm down. Just wait. Because this is a guy who understands negotiations clearly very much better than any prior presidents that I can think of.
Yeah, we need a president who wrote The Art of the Deal, which is one of the things, if you remember, he introduced himself as on the Republican debate stage in 2016, which is like so funny when you think about it, because he's next to like all these like very credentialed people who everyone knows from, their interest in politics. And then Trump's up there and he's like, I wrote The Art of the Deal. It's like he ghost wrote it. He
that
didn't
was like
write
in his
it.
bio.
Yeah. But I mean, it's worked out well. And one of the most refreshing things, I think, is that we no longer have to pretend that we're all just like this wholesome global community and, we all work together. That is a lie that people tell their citizens. It's not true. Everyone's a power player. And I don't think Trump is a tyrant, but I'm glad that he can be like, look, dude, we're obviously like the global hegemon. You have to play ball with us. And all these countries cave despite, the panicins in the news media on both right and left. And so, yeah, I have trust in the president.
Yeah, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Sarah.
Well, I was just going to say it really is an issue that I didn't pay much attention to until President Trump started sounding the alarm on it. And then the more I looked into it, the more I was just kind of aghast at like, wow, they have been taking advantage of America for a very long time. And no president has come in and even tried to do anything about it. They just didn't care. They just let it continue to get worse. And then these countries have the audacity, once President Trump comes in, they have the audacity to be like, I can't believe you would put a tariff on us. It's like, bro, you guys had like a 400% tariff on us for decades now. And now all of a sudden we're the one who are starting the trade war. I beg to differ.
Yeah, it's that dance mom that gets all up in arms when you start saying your kid's a bully and we're
Yeah.
going to fight back. Those who call him a tyrant, it is so amazing to have a president. He's not going to any nation, not one, and say, you should adopt the American way of life. He's saying, if you want to work with us, if you want to bring your crap from China that you make here, you're going to pay your fair share. If you want us to support you in Europe at NATO, you're going to pay your fair share. You don't need to play with us.
That was another great deal that he made.
Yeah, you don't need to play with us. We don't need you. But if you want to work with us, so what is he really doing? He's defending his own country. And that's not a tyrant. A guy that defends his house perhaps is doing his job.
Yeah.
Supposed to defend his house. We're not going around the world going, oh no, you should be. He didn't call for a regime change. He's just saying, you're not going to have a nuke to come hurt us. Right? But if you want to work with us, we're going to play by some fair rules here. It makes you actually think how dismal previous presidents were, or did they figure out how to be on the take?
Yeah.
Did they figure out how to benefit from a system that's bad for the American people but enrich them? Kind of looks to me like Congress has figured that out over time. They go in poor, they come out $250 million richer.
Yeah.
They have figured out how to stand on top of the American citizen and enrich themselves. This guy's saying, I don't want to even take a paycheck.
Yep.
And he's not.
Yep.
I'm fighting for the American people.
Yeah.
They should all say, thank you that he's defending his home.
Yeah. It's just, I mean, the W's are just racking up, and it's really nice to see. All right, let's go ahead and take a quick break. We'll be back with more, but we want to thank our sponsor of this segment, Shopify. So I use Shopify over at AmericanBeautyBySarah.com. By the way, I am wearing Freedom Fighter for those of you who want to go get it. And you can see what a beautiful Shopify website looks like, AmericanBeautyBySarah.com. I have used Shopify, and it is so easy. So if you are, whether you have this giant company or you've just got like a small business that you're just starting, Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world, 10% of all e-commerce in the United States. So they've got their own design studio. They've got hundreds of ready-to-use templates, and it's going to help you build a beautiful online store to match your brand's style. Their mobile app is one of the most incredible mobile apps. Do you use Shopify?
Our whole ministry, our ministry's shop is built on.
It is so, like on the go. I can't always get out my computer, and the mobile app is amazing. Like, you can figure out whatever you need. It's all in there. It's very, very simple to use. I am not a whiz when it comes to this stuff. That's part of the reason that it's so nice being married to Steven, because he's like the technologically capable one.
There are many reasons.
This is part of the reason.
Yeah, there are many reasons.
Many reasons that it would take me too long to list here.
Welcome, Steven.
But the point is, I'm really not smart at this stuff, and it is so easy for me to use. So I'm telling you guys, if you're ready to sell, you are ready for Shopify. Turn your big business idea into with Shopify on your side. You can go to shopify.com/Sarah. Sign up for your $1 per month trial over there. Start selling today. Shopify.com/Sarah. I know I've talked a lot about Zohran Mamdani, the New York City Democrat mayoral candidate, but I think that it's worth continuing to talk about, because this would be a major disaster for the biggest international hub that this country has, New York City. He's got some really crazy radical plans, and it just keeps getting worse and worse as you peel back the onion layers. He not only just recently doubled down on his plan to tax the rich, he also argued for taxing white neighborhoods. Here is some of his appearance on Meet the Press justifying his tax plan. Watch.
And realize there's a policy proposal that says your plan, and I'm going to quote it for folks, is to shift the tax burden from overtaxed homeowners in the outer boroughs to more expensive homes in richer and whiter neighborhoods. Explain why you are bringing race into your tax proposal.
That is just a description of what we see right now. It's not driven by race. It's more of an assessment of what neighborhoods are being undertaxed versus overtaxed. We've seen time and again that this is a property tax system that is inequitable.
So no plans to change that language on your website.
The focus here is to actually ensure a fair property tax system, and that the use of that language is just an assessment of the neighborhood.
I'm not buying it, you commie bastard.
That was a big red pill, so to speak, in my study of socialism, is realizing that in a lot of countries where it's not even like a white thing, like they don't have white people, like in Latin America, there's still this weird like racial component where it is the people who are like literally lighter in skin tone who are occupying like the upper castes of that society, who some guy like our friend comes along and says, we're going to tax those people and we're going to use that to pay for all the free stuff for the people in like the lower castes or whatever. And so this seems to like replicate throughout the world where you get these guys who he's like legitimately a psychopath. I mean, you see that video of him like feigning like he's crying and things like that. And yeah, it's a very popular political position, being mad at the white guy, being mad at white people and being mad at Jews are like literally the two most popular ideas in the whole world, which is why people hating Trump is a very popular idea, because people in the world recognize him to sort of be an avatar for traditional majority white America, and so they hate him for that. But yeah, it's not surprising at all that this guy was the first to figure out like, oh, I can go to a city like New York and just have to say these like radical ideas and say that we're going to get these evil white people to pay for it, and I'll be very popular for that. And white people will be some of my most enthusiastic supporters because, you know, of their own masochism in the boroughs of New York.
It literally, when you break down who actually voted for him, it was not the working class.
No.
It was a bunch of rich elites, which is crazy to me. It's just suicide.
And it's a very strange mental condition you find in Hollywood often. Well, it's self-degradation for the sake of virtual, virtue and signaling. This guy's a madman. In previous videos, you play all the different accents he will go into where he speaks. This guy has dissociative disorder. He's got multiple personalities in his head. This guy is an absolute lunatic. He's a madman. And the New Yorkers who vote for him are worse than he is. And why is it that that city historically would vote to harm themselves? And I include the Jewish community in New York, who for many, many years got it very, very wrong. Stood against Trump in 2016 even, you know. It's madness. I don't know how we solve it in this moment, because you're going to need people to rise up and have I think the only way you do it is by not giving up on it, Sarah, like you're saying. We got to hammer this thing. This guy's a lunatic. It is a foothold that if it happens in New York, it's going to happen somewhere else. It's going to happen in other cities, and it's already happening. We've got Sharia cities being birthed throughout this country. Not far from here, Anna, Texas, Frisco, Texas. We're losing territory to people who, by ideology, hate America and what we stand for. Even if they have an American citizenship. They're not here because they're for this nation.
Yeah, and you call him a lunatic. I think that the video that circulated over the weekend really proves that with this, he's eating, look how he's eating rice. He's just chowing down with his fingers, and he's like, yeah, this is how I eat.
Some people will never forgive the Anglo for teaching their recent ancestors to use knife and fork, a flush toilet, things like that. And yeah, he's got a chip on his shoulder because our ancestors civilized his ancestors, and so he wants to punish us for it. But we're not going to let it happen, because our Jewish patriots in New York are going to say,
yes,
stop.
Yes, they are.
Absolutely.
I'm saying it right now. They're going to stand up.
Let's go.
I mean, they have
all the businesses, they're going to say this madness is not going to. Now, they may end up with Eric Adams.
Yeah, which
I mean,
we love
or Cuomo.
Patriot Adams, if you can hear us.